What happened about Arsenal?
I had
Oh,
an
he's had a
Arsenal
cup.
mug last time.
So what happened? What's wrong with that? You're not supposed to do that, are you?
Why not? So you can bring an Arsenal shirt.
I'll wear mine too.
I'm ramping. No, it's what I'm gonna just have plain, or I'll have black owned products, like black owned things.
Well, I try to be as neutral as possible.
You look lovely.
Hopefully they won't criticise my Apple phone, my Apple Watch.
Nobody criticising.
Is it criticised?
No, I mean, they won't, say anything. I don't want to be merchandising for others, do
Oh,
I?
that could be anything there.
Yeah, it could, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be a Fitbit.
It could be a bastard one, innit? It could be anything.
We need to.
We need to take.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah. Needs to go. Yeah. No, it's not working.
We need a gimmick, man.
So I can just fight in the corner.
Callum, give us a gimmick. What are we gonna? How can we introduce ourselves? Callum and Sabrina just sounds.
What would it be? C dot? Like what would you
I
need to
don't know,
be?
man. Something a bit more. You know what I mean? Engaging.
Take out of your parents, mate. They called you Callum. It's just your name.
I like that.
What
Oh,
happened?
I do. Sorry.
I like that ID.
That is
All right, can we
proper
do
there.
camera checks? I want to make sure everybody's happy with what we have up so far.
Okay, so what does the
I'm
camera
not
check look
even
like?
too sexy about it.
What's a camera check? Huh?
So we're
Camera
picking
check
you're
is
happy
how
with
you
that
like
angle.
Oh, do you want me
like
to
how you
look at myself?
Are you happy with? Well, not you can't cover a
Well,
shot.
no, you don't look at yourself actually. Are you happy with how Callum looks? That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
No, not how he looks right now.
Yeah, aight.
She's a bit young for me, but
Callum looks good, man. Yeah, man. Callum looks sound. He looks very nice.
yeah, the backup on backups, but
You have your phone with you? Put time on.
Can do. I don't know how to do it in a way where it doesn't go. I don't know how to do that.
What, you're looking at time?
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be easy.
So I did have the clock, and then it was in my boot. And when I opened the boot, it dropped out. Rolled down High Street,
my
and I was
God.
not chasing it. I'm sorry, I can't do shame. So there was no.
So you just
no
let
way.
the clock
The
just...
clock. I don't know. It's the middle of Sydenham High Street. And it's staying there.
Kay can give us a
Shame!
15 minutes, 10 minutes, and 5 minutes.
I won't chasing it because I know what I'm like. I'm likely to drop, tumble, take someone else out on the way down.
End up on one of them Instagram pages.
No.
Yeah.
Have to move at illusion, relocate, like nah.
Up to Dartford when I don't know you. I'm getting hungry.
Oh, so you're going to take us to lunch or dinner, are you? But yeah, I get hungry. Why are you going to say that now? Next thing you know, our stomach's going to be rumbling.
No.
Oh, mine wasn't.
And you didn't even bring no food, did you? Not even a dry biscuit, not your bag.
I might have a ginger biscuit in my bag.
Yeah, it sounds like you got one at the bottom of your bag that only you can eat. It doesn't even sound like... It even sound like got a pack, you know.
It's in the
One
packaging.
biscuit, you know.
Yeah, one.
One sauce of biscuit.
Maybe half, and the rest of it's crumbled in the bottom of the bag.
Bless you.
I'm telling you, man, they got... Anyway, let me shut my mouth.
Oh God,
What about the show for?
No, it's all right. Let's just talk.
Yeah, man, talk. You know,
Are you not- are you recording
Frady thing here? You know, we're talking.
Don't even try that because I'm not planning on getting cancelled. Yeah, I'm still working with some of these people. Yeah,
We all got to go back to work after January. We're like,
Listen.
need to come out illusion.
No, listen. When I'm on radio, I have the liberty to say what I'm living because we are Pan-African, rebellious station.
But shall I tell you something?
So yeah. So
Yeah, but shall I tell you something though? I'm not afraid to say on here that I don't. It's not that I don't believe in this report. I don't believe the system is workable. I'm of the view it needs to be completely taken down and reformed. Like it's not workable. It's never proven to be workable. I'm of that view. So I'm not here to represent the Blacher report. I'm here to represent the people who have read the Blacher report. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not to critique
Okay.
it. It's not to critique it per se, but I will give a honest, that's how I feel. This is not a workable system. The system was predicated upon racism. It's not going to benefit us in that way. It doesn't matter how much reports we do. However, we can take from those reports and build on solutions and blah, blah, blah. But if you're talking about the overarching solution for me, and I'm not afraid to say this on the podcast, the entire system needs to be collapsed. I believe in
I
anarchy.
agree. Oh look, there you go, uploaded.
Tracy's ready to go now, you know.
Remember that thing I sent you on Insta after our first filming? Get arrested.
Cancelled and arrested.
No, but it's everybody's being elevated right now.
Do you know? Do you know something? if you're talking about anarchy,
So, everybody,
Yeah.
overstand that.
Me?
Sabrina and Callum, just check the group. There is the live link off the show today. Just want to make sure you can hear
I'm
it.
sorry, live link. Does that mean this is being streamed live?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, no, nobody's watching it. This is on a private channel.
okay.
Yeah.
It's alright. Please
But
don't
it's
be
for us
outside
to
when
have
we
it.
leave.
It's for you to have it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right, look, pale, man.
So afterwards,
You look like that, babe. I'm joking.
Oh, so what you
Do
can
you?
see? You sent it to them.
yeah. So we're live right now
Oh,
on a
wow.
private YouTube channel.
Oh, sorry. I'm
Let
an
me
idiot.
see,
I'm
let
a
me see.
total idiot. I think I just said that.
Okay, let's flip
sorry.
it to another camera angle.
Nah, man, I look pale, man. I need some sun. No, no coloration can't fix that. I just need a holiday. The only thing that can fix that is a holiday. Nah, man, I'm not supposed to be here in the winter. What am I doing?
I hear that.
My
I
brother's
hear
in Jamaica right now, chilling. My dad's supposed to be going. And I'm just here like an idiot.
And I'm money.
Are you in Jamaica? Are they in Jamaica now?
So we're happy, right?
Oh, why didn't you go?
Everybody, we've done sound
Money with
and
two
visual
kids, you
checks.
know.
Yeah.
We're happy.
Cool.
No complaints.
Nope, I'm good.
Oh, can I see?
Perfect.
Can I see?
Wow.
So Callum just not. He needs some foundation.
I look pale, man.
Next time we're gonna make
People
bars,
gonna
okay?
turn around and say, "But wait, that man's white with dreads. How's he talking about race? How's he talking about race?"
No, it's not that bad. Come on, Callum. Give yourself some more credit than that. You look black, man. Trust me.
We're okay. Is there anything else you need? You're nice. You need food. You need food.
I'm good.
You need any rum? Are we good?
Oh,
You start bringing
Is that
rum in there, we
Yeah,
get
don't do
cancelled
that,
by
innit?
next, by next show. What's
some rum?
You got rum?
Yeah.
No,
You're
don't get no
joking?
rum.
Yeah.
is the one really here?
Let's get some rum for you.
You lot are
Is
really
he
weird.
joking?
What? I want one.
Is he? I want rum.
Oh God.
Is he serious?
Right, so this is our first and last episode.
I don't know.
I don't know.
You know.
Must be going for it.
Listen, it looked like we're going to have a party tonight.
Callum has someone up your chest.
You understand?
Put Ray and nephew on the table. So yo, and that we're dealing Bashir and nephew. Some true talk. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. So what I was saying is, it's different when you're on radio, and you've got that kind of parameter because you're speaking your truth. You know what I mean? It's about speaking. And we don't know. So the police is. I went to this event.
Their glasses.
A couple's.
Say no rum glass, but
He's a waiting nephew.
let me just make sure that everybody is
Maybe I'll say Birmingham.
just you. Nobody else wanted.
I didn't say no. He said no.
She was.
I'll have a little bit.
But I only have a tiny bit. Oh my god, man's got rum.
Just give me the bottle, Jacob. When?
This is for medicinal purposes.
Exactly. Medicinal purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm recovering.
From what?
I don't know yet, but me too.
Did you want anything else? You okay with just that?
Good.
Let's
No,
have
I
some
drink-
colour
I
so it
drink
goes
it
with my
straight.
outfit.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll behave.
continue.
Yeah, something to water this down, you know, because
that's
halfway through the
fine.
podcast, we start talking foolishness in it.
Ain't it? At least you're sober.
I'm joking.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you, Callum.
Ray straight, you know. That's
Okay, so we're all good.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all good.
Okay.
Nice and watered.
Everything,
We're good.
lights,
we're good now.
done our checks. Okay, so 3, 2,
Hold on,
1.
hold on. Can we have a 10? How long are we going for?
It's an hour, so can we get warnings?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because we're not trying to
Have
go
you got
over.
a thing to say 10 minutes, 15 minutes left?
Just signal and say shh.
Just put your hand in it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
Or
only
can,
signaling
can
to
you show halfway and then the 10 minutes before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do halfway
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was about to say,
5
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Only to you. So you're the main one.
Damn.
Let them flies again.
We good? Hi, and welcome back to Same Place, Worlds Apart. For those of you that have tuned in before, welcome back. And for those that it's your first time, welcome. We can't wait to get deep into our next session, which is around the Blaché Report and Theme 1, which is around racism and discrimination. Today, we've got a wonderful guest, and I'm so excited that she's here and that she's in our presence. So, as you know, I'm Sabrina.
I'm Callum.
And the lovely lady sitting on the sofa. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. Do you want to tell us a bit more about who you are?
Wow, where do I start? I'm, let me say, I'm a community development worker. I've been doing that for over two decades and a half. I'm also a trainer, qualified trainer. What else? I'm a radio show host for a community radio show. That's been going for 39 years. It'll be our 40th year next year. And I've had the honour of being part of that family for the past 15 years, doing the community talk show. What else can I say?
Sorry to cut you. Are you able to share what radio station, just in case any...
I would prefer not to.
Okay.
I'll tell you the reason why. Let me be clear. I think one of the reasons is that there are things that we do in our community that so often I feel is procreated by the establishment. And what they can't overstand, they claim. They somehow infiltrate. And I think I'm very protective. It's not everybody that I see. I would share the name and the nature of the organisation. Those that know. And those that know, I often feel are part of the cohort of people that want to see real change, that want to talk about the inequalities, that want to deal with the things. And sometimes we can sound very extreme, because I know there's been our own people that's listened to the station and thought, oh my God, these people are real extremists. However, I feel that it's a family that we're very protective, and I think it's the last place people go when the establishment has failed them completely. And it's a place where you can go and articulate that pain, that trauma, unbridled.
Yeah.
And I think not only that, because of the different nature of the work that I do, and the establishments that the organisations that I work for, I think they would be somewhat really surprised and shocked if they heard the fact that we understand or we know the true nature of some of their behaviours, and the fact that we articulate and we talk about it openly amongst ourselves. And I think sometimes there's a space where we need to have that is private,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agree.
that is ours. And so that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't readily share
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
the name. And so besides doing the radio show stuff, I'm a big trainer. I do freelance for a statutory organisation delivering mental health awareness training for young people and adults alike and the general community per se, and that's a massive piece of my work. And extensive training around race awareness in the past. So I think that gives a little sense of the kind of stuff that I do.
Excellent.
In a formal context, as well as the community engagement work.
Yes, excellent.
I'm going to probe you a little bit though. What's race awareness?
What's a race awareness?
Race awareness. Is it
Within the context that I'm dealing with? Well, it's about how racism, how discrimination impacts on our day-to-day life. And race awareness for me is about raising awareness about the impact of those two phenomena, raising awareness about our culture and what that looks like in the UK, here in the diaspora. Because the culture, let's say I'm Jamaican, for example, through heritage, my parents, there's a certain way of being Jamaican in the UK that is very different than if I was to go back home to Jamaica.
Absolutely.
So it's about looking at our culture within the context of a Eurocentric and within the UK context.
I love that. Is that accessible to everybody? How do you decide?
Yeah, man.
That? Okay.
Yeah. My aspiration is in 2024, which is next year, I believe. I was just checking because I just said 2004, but you're done now. But in 2020, is it the? And I haven't even started. Oh my gosh. Anyway, next year, my aspiration is that I'm going to be delivering that throughout the year. And why do I think I'm so unique in a position to do that is I spent 20 years living in the Southwest, in Devon, and I was just coming from London at the age of 21. I was just shocked at the blatant racism that I was confronted with every single day. And, you know, for example, I'd be standing up in a queue and some white lady will come from the back and stand in front of me. So I wondered to myself, well, maybe she was dealing with her before. Hell no. So when I confronted her, I said, excuse me, I was here before you. I don't stand behind black people. Me say, you think I saw it, Tagaga? So the woman that is about to serve, I goes, you can't serve her. I was here first. She is sharing the same kind of viewpoints as this woman. And then I kind of looked around for that support, and I'm the only black in the village. So you're like, okay, how do I handle this? So fast forwarding Macpherson's report, I then started delivering anti-discriminatory practice training. And for example, I trained all of Devon and Cornwall probationary services, 723 white staff. And I make the distinction because there's 33 staff who are black, and I don't train white and black people in the same space when it comes to race equality training. So a lot of my experience around engaging, for me, gave me a really good understanding of white people's racism and their racist ideology and how it permeates in their community, and interestingly how it impacts on them. Yeah, because it does have an impact on them, whether they are blind to it or fully aware of it. So I think I've had an opportunity to really look under their underbelly and get an overview, and then it helps me to understand what we as a black community need to know about ourselves.
Yeah. Right, so I'm just going to go through, I want us to discuss Lewisham as a whole, because the point of the Bashir report was because Lewisham and Birmingham have the highest black populations at the time, according to the census of 2011. Now, we know Lewisham's a big place, and we know that when our ancestors came over, a lot of the places they settled in, one of them being Lewisham. So when we look at places like Brockley, Deptford, those are where a lot of our seniors ended up and where a lot of us were raised. And that's why when you go to any event in Brockley or I went to a night night the other day and the whole of Brockley was there. And the sense of black love and unity I nearly cried because it was just like, why can't we continue this? And why can't everyone in this room do something to help us get to where we need to go? So I'm just going to give some data. So in 2011, the population in Lewisham was 275,000, and it increased by 8.9% by the census of 2021. Now, our black demographic was 23% at the time of the Bashir report being written. That's now increased, but we have a very big youth population. So we know as time goes on, that demographic of us as black people being the borough is going to get bigger. So we know that when it comes to us and our health inequalities, any inequality, the basis of it is racism and discrimination. That's the underpinning. The economic, the social effects of everything impacts why we get arrested more, why our children aren't, getting the right GCSE results, why we're dying early, and why we're getting misdiagnosed, we're sectioned. So I kind of want to have a discussion around what does that mean? What do we need to do as, I say elders, but the older population compared to under 25s to make sure that they are informed and that they know what needs to be done in order to pass the baton on? Because this Bashir report is the foundations. This is not, the be all or end all. This is the foundation to a lot of things that we already know. So how do we ensure that as years go on, because this is not a one trick pony, it's not going to be a year thing that we can get it over and done with. How do we continue the fight?
I think that's a big question.
I know. Sorry, I realised that.
No.
I'm talking, adding more. Sorry.
No, I don't think, not in the sense that it's a criticism. I think it's a big question that you're asking. And the reason why I say it's a big question, because the issues, the inequalities we experience is not just one-fold. And I think what the Bashir report does, it beautifully illustrates the different determinants. Yeah. So if you think about all the things that you just mentioned and sense that, okay, we are not doing that well in terms of education, crime and what have you. And then the question that you ask, I've forgotten.
It's that drink.
It's what we do.
No, what
so
do we do?
Progress this? Because there's pockets of us that are fighting the fight. We do this every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But as we get older, who's the next generations? What do we need to be imparting in them from now? So they are gonna.
Here's the issue. We've got lots of our elders who they like to coin as part of the Windrush generation. But we know we came here way before the Windrush generation. Yes. So-called Windrush generation. And we have to be very mindful and careful about that terminology and how it's been hijacked and now used. And I won't even go into that, I'll just stop right there. But how do we pass the knowledge on to our young people? The biggest issue that we have right now passing that knowledge on to our young people is that some of our young people do not share our values. They don't necessarily buy into the inequalities that we have come to identify. So it feels like this report, although it's forward thinking, it's slightly behind, because if we was to think about one of the outcomes here, which is about exploring how we, how you'd say, categorize ethnicity.
Yeah. So,
for example, there was, in the report, it says, it's about how do we go about collecting that data, and I know you gave a really good example. If you want to remind me, that example where, a lot of people may not identify themselves as black, and a lot of people may not identify themselves as African Caribbean. You've got young people who may be of dual heritage, and, there may not be a category for that. Yeah. I think there's something that goes deeper there. It's how do our young people see themselves in terms of their cultural identity?
Is it almost that you feel like the longer we're still establishing what Black British is?
Yeah, but let's just say we're clear about what Black British is, Britishness is, so to speak. I think that knowledge is very much in existence with the older cohort, because we have had to fight and resist racism, and have constantly heard "go back home." You know, we you know, no dogs, no Irish, no blacks. Do you know, it's so close. It's like it only happened yesterday. But if you think about our young people and social media and how they are educated, you know, does our educational system, right? Does our educational system actually tell our children who they are?
No.
No.
Does it give them enough information for them to be culturally comfortable in their skin? You know, if our children are subjected to discrimination because of how they wear their hair to school, then we recognise that there is some kind of assimilation that happens to our children when they enter in those educational systems. That is also reflected in how they are educated. Are they educated to see Africanness, to see themselves as Africans? You know, I know I've spoken to African Caribbean children that if you tell them that they're African, they're probably going to they will take offense. That tells you about the lack of knowledge that our children have about their own cultural history and awareness. Why is that? Maybe you could blame the parents and say, well, they don't educate them about it. Maybe the parents is relying on the schools to bring about that education. So when we think about passing on to the next baton, where will I pass on? Is the question. And how do we pass on the cultural sensitivity that is required in order to unpack these documents and to get behind what these documents actually mean, and to increase the community's understanding? Okay, we've got the Bashir report. What does that actually mean in practical terms? So if we're going to pass anything on, okay, but I think you have to be able to pass on a certain critical thinking mindset, as opposed to one that, because when you go to school, you're going to school to be schooled. It's not until you reach higher education that critical thinking becomes part of your way of analysing the information that is presented to you. You know, when you have to look at a piece of essay title and then all of a sudden you find critical thinking is and learning how to study is actually modules. It's a way of doing things. Where in school, you don't get that. So unless you as an African Caribbean, African child or black child, whatever term you're comfortable in using, has had that input where your parents is able to create the mindset or nurture mindset within that child that gets them to critically critique whatever information they're receiving and have an understanding or a sense of why they're in the position that they are in, and step away. For example, a young boy is stopped on the street, a young black boy, and I'm using the term black very loosely here, but a young black boy is stopped by the police and, you know, doesn't feel he's treated favourably. He will go home and feel the impact of that.
Internalise it.
And then, see it there?
Yeah.
But will he have the space in his head, once he's felt the emotional impact of that, to sort of step away and say, oh, according to stop and search figures, young black boys are unduly stopped, or according to this report, or according to this, or it's so when we think about what do we pass on, I think there's some nurturing of the younger generation that needs to be happened in order to bring them up to speed in terms of the inequalities that the Bashir report talks about. And I think that in itself requires a whole plethora of work.
I
agree. I think for me as well, that's why I advocate so massively for and again I use the term quite loosely, but black specific spaces. Like we need the space to be able to have that kind of dialogue in and amongst ourselves and educate ourselves, because it's one thing knowing that there's something wrong with the system, or something wrong with the disproportionate amount of stop and search and exclusions, but it's another thing being able to actually have a collective sort of effort that works to tackling it. Do you see what I'm saying? So one example I always give is when Akala, I think it was Newsnight or something, when he was asked, like, how do I get to your level? Like, how did you grow up where you grow up, but you're able to articulate yourself the way you did? And he attributed it almost exclusively to Saturday schools.
Really?
Yeah, almost exclusively to Saturday schools. He was like, I went to a Saturday school, and more of these specific spaces need to exist where we're able to learn about ourselves. So like, yeah, I'm a massive advocate for it. I mean, for me, the from what I've studied, the key product indicator as far as raising our attainment has always been black specific spaces. There's no other consistent progressive sort of initiative that's raised our attainment better than black specific spaces, and they can exist in school, outside of school on the weekend, but that needs to happen. So yeah.
So I was going to bring you lot back a little bit. So when we talk about racism discrimination, what does that mean? Because I feel like sometimes people have different definitions of what racism is to them. So how would you identify racism?
For me, I think people need to move away from the sort of older sort of definition of racism, of believing that being called something is racist. I've never been called a nigger, so I don't live in a racist time. That's my grandparents' era. We need to move away from that and understand that the system of racism was created to be self-perpetuating. So one example I always give is we have one of the most diverse cabinets in government at the moment, but we also have some of the most draconian racist policies we've ever seen. So diversity doesn't always immediately mean no racism. And I think we need to redefine how we understand racism. And I think it goes back to what you're saying about when we're passing that baton on to the younger people and getting them to understand what does racism mean to you, because a lot of them, as far as they're concerned, don't experience it. Whereas I'm of the view that there's no black person on earth who hasn't experienced racism, not one, and that's just because of the imperialism. It's a bit of a bigger conversation.
But don't you think that might be because they don't understand or they don't understand? Let me say quickly, the reason why I use the word over, because I mean, I know the under business. Because when you're under something, there's somebody pulling your strings and determining. Excuse me. So my objective is always to have an overstanding, so I can have an overview. Based on what you've just said, and if we've got young people that feel, well, because they don't experience racism, I agree with you. There needs to be some more discourse around what that actually looks like. But for me, you are experiencing racism through structural inequalities, through institutions.
Absolutely.
You understand me? So if we think about Africa and the colonization of Africa, people can turn around and say, yeah, Africa is free. But go to the Congo, go to South Africa, go to Kenya. Do you know, I'm going to share this, and this might not be included in the interview, and that's fine, but I just need to share this. If we think about the response to the COVID, and if we think about the vaccinations, right now, the government is going through an inquiry, and I think it affirms what we don't know already. Yeah? All it's doing is highlighting how they went about doing business through their texts, how they communicated. I think it's really important that we're going through that process. But check it. We also have a policy around how we respond to another pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah? And there's certain policies that have been set in place. Certain countries have been involved in how do we minimize and map people's movements. So right now in Kenya, the Kenyan leader has just negotiated with one of those pharmaceutical companies that was involved in rolling out the vaccine, in chipping babies when they're born before leaving the hospital. The report that I read that in, well, it's linked to the COVID response. Now, people can tell us, well, Kenya, that's okay. It's part of how we progress. But for me, the cynical side of me thinks, and that's a pilot, and it's been testing. So they know it's a pilot, and it's a test. They don't know how it's going to work. Why have you left from... Why are you not rolling that out in some European country? Mm-hmm. Why are you rolling that out in Kenya?
I mean, it's the same with the Rwanda bill at the moment. I mean, they've recently, I think it was as recent as 3 years ago, they took refugees from Rwanda, and then they recently legislated that Rwanda is safe. I mean, when you think about the absurdity of this, it would be like me putting you in a lion with a cage of a rabbit.
It doesn't hurt.
But because I've wrote it I've legislated that it's safe.
Fine,
it's fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And they've just passed the first reading of that bill last week. So, bring it back. What I'm saying all of that to sort of say, if there's a young person that don't think that they experience racism, it demonstrates their lack of awareness about racism and discrimination and how it is played out. If we was to drop another indicator, I would say, poverty, classism is also another reason why we experience so many inequalities. So I just feel that someone in these day and age that say, well, I haven't experienced racism, you probably haven't experienced direct name calling or being beaten up or what have you. But if you think about the outcomes of this report and think about the inequalities, think about how black women fare within maternity, 1 in 4. Now, I recently spoke to a young lady in the community who her son is 12 right now, but when she was pregnant, her waters broke. She was in labor for 72 hours, 3 days. The baby ended up pooing inside of her. She was totally ignored throughout throughout that time. It traumatized her so much that she decided to work within the health system as within maternity. And right now she's working as a qualified nurse, working with children on a ward. And even in her job, she explained how she has witnessed people. There was this young black child lying there on the bed, sedated, and the nurse wanted to inject the child with some fluid. And she explained that you can tell that the person that is sedated is feeling discomfort because their blood pressure level goes up. She started... There was a lead that had to go from the bottom here to the heart. And she started to she's watching this nurse putting this tube, liquid through. And the heart rate started to go up. The child is obviously feeling it.
Stress,
She had to call it out. She called and said, what are you doing? Can't you see the child is feeling discomfort? Now that's a black woman who was training. That's a white nurse or doctor, whatever the case may be. But somebody was there to advocate for that child. these are the sort of things that I feel like the Blaschere is trying to tease out. It wants to talk to the community about what they have seen. But the challenge with that, I would say, is that many of our people experience these kind of things, but they accept it. They feel there's no way for them to go to articulate that.
Yeah.
We talk about it amongst ourselves in our community, you know, but we live with the trauma because that traumatized her some 12 years ago. Her child is 12.
Yeah.
And she has made it a life passion to prevent
Rectify, yeah. Mhm.
that from happening. So when we think about the Blaschere report and think about some of the outcomes, you know, in terms of raising people's awareness about this, it's about how do we ask our people to rake up those traumas, relive those traumas, articulate those traumas to someone with the hope that they're going to be able to do something different and then change the system to then reduce the inequalities that we experience.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a big ask.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
feel like
absolutely.
for a lot of our community, especially the older generation, they've seen different reports and inquiries come out. So for them, okay, you got another glossy report. What does that mean? Am I going to see change in my time? And that's the problem there, because we don't trust. We don't trust them. At times we've given them something and then they've taken it back from us. So there was a point I was going to bring up, but actually I won't bring up. I just realised what I was going to say. I'll be very mindful. But I feel like we need to ensure that we meet our members of the community where they're at. And yes, it is distressing. And yes, it is annoying that we've got another report. But I feel like if the right people are part of this game, there will be change. And I said it on the pilot, if I didn't have my children, I would glue myself to certain buildings because I genuinely love our borough and I want to see a change. But I can't do it by myself.
No.
It cannot be done just us. And that's why what you were saying about the education, and that's why I wanted to ask, what do you believe racism is? Because I know for me, I've had racism in all different ways. So I come from a dual heritage and I went through my own mental health challenges. And when I went to go and do what I had to do to get support, I was told, you know, are you struggling because, you know, maybe you're feeling like a mongrel? Now, at the time, I was dosed up on different mental health tablets. And it's not until I went outside and told my husband, and he was like, no, that's not okay. And I then went back and complained, and his excuse was, oh, because, you know, you're black and Indian.
Wow.
What does that mean? What does that mean? And then what happened for me then, I stopped going to therapy. I stopped engaging, which then meant I'm down as non-compliant. I'm not trying to get better. But for me, you're traumatizing me when I should be getting support through my trauma. So and there's loads of us out there like that have gone through things, and then what we get labeled as is non-compliant or hard to reach. We're not hard to reach. We don't want to be reached by you, because when we've been reached by you, you've hurt us. So why come back and do that to us again? Why am I going to allow my children to go through that again? So then we will stop our children from engaging in certain things because we don't trust them. And I feel like there needs to be, I don't know what that even looks like, but there needs to be, I would love to think in Lewisham if we could have, you know, like when you watch like American shows and they have like their committee meetings and you can pose questions and there's loads of the community out. I'd love to think that we can get to that where we're not seen as a threat. Our voices are genuinely heard. Not, oh, here you go again, starting something. But no, listen to what we're saying. And the stuff you said about the midwifery is true. They believe that our pain threshold is high.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying, no, I'm in pain, oh, you're fine. I remember when I was pregnant and I said, no, baby's coming now. Oh, no, you're fine. And when you're, sorry, Callum, when you're in that moment when you're like, no, it's coming, you don't business, who can see whatever of your body? And at that time, I was like, no, look. And she looked and my whole waters just burst in front of her. But I was telling her for ages, I'm in pain. I know what's happening. This is my third child at the time. So I know. But they don't listen. And then when you start to try to fight for yourself, you're a problem. You're aggressive. Or don't talk to staff like that. We're here to be respected. And it's just a frustrating game. And when you spoke about your friend who's now a midwife, works within midwifery, when you look at the Blaschere report, it speaks about what our black staff are going through in the NHS. they're the ones that are going for disciplinary hearings more than their white counterparts. They are, they don't feel, they think it's 40.7% see that there's progression in the NHS. So there's a whole other section that don't feel like there's any progression. And so how did we get there? I feel like I know my nan, when she came over, she was part of the NHS. She built the NHS alongside all her other people. How have we got to the place we are today? And I do believe the system was never set out for us to be a patient. We was definitely supposed to be the helpers. But how can we still be going through the same things? And we spoke about this in the pilot about the sectioning of our young black boys. And they're overrepresented in the mental health wards. But when it comes to CAMHS level, so children and adolescents mental health support, they're underrepresented. So we've got a lot of our students that have got ADHD, autism, ASD, and they haven't got any support. And then they end up being young men and young women that start to self-medicate. And then that's a whole different type of thing that happens over that, because then you've got the medication and the whatever they're taking mixed with what they've got going on in terms of neurodiversity. And we're just going to have this horrid cycle of trauma because no one is taking heed on what needs to happen. And this is why when it comes to the Bliss report, one thing it speaks about is co-production. So they understand that, yes, you've identified these things that are happening to us, but you can't fix them without us. We need to be part of that, and not part of just the conversation and the story, but part of the delivery. Our people need something. Why can't we deliver it? Do you know how many amazing people we've got in Lucian that do, like yourself, you do amazing things. You should be commissioned. You should be paid to do this because you know the community, they trust you, you have an overstanding, and they need to be making sure that they band with us so that we're part of it and that we have some type of ownership as well.
And that even ties into this, because those uncomfortable conversations are required to happen. And I think that's what it is. A lot of the grassroots organizations will prompt these uncomfortable conversations of, no matter how much money you pump into this, if you don't consider race discrimination, you've missed the mark. So like, even, you're like talking about, you do like race quality training. Am I right in saying that? I've done a couple. I'm not trained. I wouldn't say I'm trained in that way, but I was just asked to do it at some corporate thing. One of the first things I said to them was, my job is nigh on impossible. Like, the system needs completely reforming, which I can't do within 3 hours. But let's work with what's going on. And it was like the uncomfortableness across the people who had asked me to be there. It was like that was my opening line. I've been asked to do this, but good luck, because it's impossible, to be honest. They was all like, who got this guy in? It was so funny. But those uncomfortable conversations are necessary. When you're talking about even like pain threshold, right the way through, even down to schools, and like physical intervention in schools happens a lot more with black boys. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? So
and also
it's a big conversation.
I'm probably going to say the wrong term, but the over sexualization of our young people as well. And just because a child appears that they could be 18 but they're 13, they're still 13. Treat them as a child, and they're not doing that. And that's why, and also understanding how we are. There's a funny sketch on a social media platform, and it talks about this person that got sectioned, and the person was doing this to their head, and the doctor was like, "Oh, they've lost it." And it wasn't until someone black come in the room and said, "No, they can't scratch that. You've got a pat." And again, it's about culturally understanding us. They don't understand us. I don't know if they don't understand us, and there's some of them, especially when it comes to consultants and the higher people within certain statutory provisions. They are so far removed from us. They don't even know the area that they're working in, and it's not their problem.
I think language plays a massive part as well, because like, I think things massively changed with George Floyd. So the whole conversation around sort of inequalities opened up a little bit more. A lot of more, like, even the work that I'd done was post George Floyd. They would have never asked me to come in and do that pre George Floyd. But it opened up a worldwide sort of conversation of these kind of things. But the language that's being used, and like terms, I mean, we spoke about this, the terms like woke being hijacked, and then like it completely, it creates this false parallel that further complicates the nuance of race. So you're no longer able to have this very frank conversation, and you use the coded language that we've always used to explain the things that we speak about, because it means so many different things now. So like one of the things, for example, and I think I think this is done so. I think this is like fundamentally one of the key things that we need to be pushing as far as like what kind of language we use. So one of the KPIs they use, for example, to explain how it's not just black boys anymore, is children on free school meals, white boys on free school meals are underperforming the most. But it doesn't look at sort of the disparate figures. So it doesn't look at the amount of white boys in comparison to the amount of black children in school. It doesn't look at the A levels, which are a much bigger connector to higher education, where the statistic massively changes. There's so much that it misses out, but it's used as sort of a beating rod to say actually that like everyone's suffering now.
Yeah.
So now the conversation is like moved along, but it's also moved away from what we was initially hoping to achieve, which is an equitable system that impacts everybody and treats everybody fairly.
Yeah.
But it's just moved so far away from that now, where it's just it's so broad with all these false equivalents, and anytime you bring it up, someone's like, oh well, me too. And you've got to do this whole sort of dissecting to explain actually it's a little bit more complex than that, and you know our story is very different. Even the term BAME, I'd like to hear your opinion on the term BAME, because that's always been
a bane in my head.
Yeah, it's always been a sticking point. People have always I've got a massive problem with it because our stories are so different.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? So I'd like to know.
Well, you see, these terms are for the establishment. They're not for us. You see, the thing is, because a lot of us who work in these establishments, right, you know, there's words that I want to use but I can't. Please don't. No, I was just going to use the word. No, it's all right. Okay. But because we work in these establishments, we don't end up being trendsetters. We end up being followers. Yeah? Let me tell you why. Many years ago, I was part of the Racial Equality Council in Cornwall, right? And at the time, we were exploring terminologies: black ethnic, black other, black la 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 la, white, what have you. And as part of this group that was identifying the categories, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. So somebody actually in a room make up these lists, and I'm thinking, so I could do that because I'm here. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. So it made me realise that the work that I've chosen to do, which is to be a community development worker, I want to make a difference. I want to change policy. I want to shape policy. And I have this analogy that I use to describe myself. And for me, I made a decision many years ago to choose the nature of the work that I was going to work in. And it was to fight against a system. Oh, I shouldn't have used that word. But anyway, hopefully you'll edit it out.
We just go beep.
Yeah, right? Now, the reason being is because when I was going to my secondary school, I realised that there were children that were coming from Jamaica entering into my class, Kamabana and Groya, who were being treated differently. And I didn't understand why. Now, being the girl that I am when going to school, I'm challenging the teacher. Yeah. I was raised with younger siblings, so I've always been the big girl kind of person and stand up for the person that is being treated badly. So I'm challenging the teacher, and I said, don't talk to him like that. Why are you taking the mickey out of his accent? And he had a strong Jamaican accent. He just come back from, he was born in, and his parents has obviously come here. And then, while I was going to school, I remember my mum, you know, who had a strong Jamaican accent. And my dad spoke impeccable English. And my mum said, you know, Tracy, the teacher said your brother is in the normal. So I said, eh? She said, yes. Well, I didn't say eh. I said, yes, mummy. And she said, yes. And then said, he should go to an educational, me don't know what it call again, educational subnormal school. So I said, oh, okay, mummy. Now, my mum said, find out what it is for me now. So I went to my local library and I found this tiny little book written by Bernard Conan called How the West Indian Child is Made Educational Subnormal. My whole life changed. Because all of a sudden, I had words for what I was seeing and experiencing in my school.
Yeah.
My mum always told me about Babylon and rare. So I got it. But there was another language that I needed. That book, I had the pleasure of meeting that man some years ago. But that book opened my eyes to what I was experiencing. Now, fast forward some 40 years later, and thinking about those inequalities and that journey, our parents, this system is always going to be here, because it's like you said, Callum, it was never set up for us. We're just the tools in which they use to gain their riches and to furnish their interest.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about, and this is the premises in which I work, you're either upholding the system, you are either complicit or you're a fight. Now, there are times when you can sit on the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah? There are times when you have to sit on the fence.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Because everybody want to get peer, everybody need them job, mortgage for get peer, rare. And so, for me, as a woman working with integrity, I'm any piece of work that I do, it has to fall in one of those four categories. Am I sitting on the fence? Yeah. Am I upholding the system? Am I tearing it down? Or am I compliant with it? And that's the question that for me, that's at the back of my head.
Yeah.
So this is the reason why I do the work that I do in terms of radio and all the different interests, because really and truly I'm here to tear down the inequalities that I am seeing. That's what my work is about. That's why I do what I do. And so when I then see some of our people that work in those establishments, I then recognize that just because you look like me, sound like me, smell like me, smile like me,
You didn't smell.
shit, yeah, man, because we smell, you know.
I'm saying not all skin folk are kinfolk.
Oh, see there. And so there lies our problems.
But like,
because it's gone.
Sorry to cut you. Even in that's another thing, because I was reading something the other day where they, I think it was Rishi Sunak was speaking about bringing in a woke minister or something like that to monitor the use of sort of that kind of language. I don't know if you've seen it. Like it's a minister that they're looking to bring in.
I think I read an article a couple of days ago. I think there is someone appointed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So what would they be doing?
God knows. It's just more of our taxpayers' money doing foolishness, personally. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some more research and add it.
It came how it came about was people were using the term coconut to refer to Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman.
So brown on the outside, white on the inside.
Yeah, so that's people would. So what they were trying to say is that that's a racial slur, and I think that is what led to it being it coming about. That's one of the main things, because there was someone who was carrying a sign at a protest, Suella Braverman, with a coconut next to it, and was arrested.
Wow.
And
is that all it took?
Yeah, and I think you got a brother called Kahindi Andrews who recently come out of a book called The Psychosis of Whiteness.
Yep.
Who was quite prominent in speaking against the fact that coconut isn't a racial slur. You know, and it's about and what it's more about. It all falls back to racism again, because it's criminalizing the coded language that we use. So,
Wow.
yeah,
But you check it. If you think about just him, for example, and others like him, there are racism in their system.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're part of those that the elite within their culture. They're parts of their communities that are untouchable to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason, but the idea that it's used as a tool, and our disunity is usually used as a tool because some of the policies that have been implemented over the past couple of years with the Tories and predominantly Asian black faces could have never been done with a white person. They're that racist.
Yeah,
Thank you.
They could have never put a white person.
Thank you. That's why you have to recognize who are you. Are you sitting on the fence? Are you upholding the system? Are you in agreement? There are members of our community who are more white than they are black,
Say
or
it again.
African or African Caribbean, but they represent black people.
In those spaces.
Yeah, they do.
They've been
The
put
voice.
to represent us. And so when we ask the question that you ask at the top, which is, well, how are we going to bring about change? You know, how are we going to stop things from keep repeating? We have to identify who's in the room.
What you said was key. What you said was key, and it's jumped out my head. I tried to jump in, but what you said was key. Like in terms of, you said something that's just jumped out of my head. But just like anyway,
You'll come back.
Like leading on from it, just bringing it back to sort of, it's about us establishing what representation looks like.
Yeah.
And you said it's key. Not all skin folk is kinfolk. So, like for me, it's not always about having just there's a black director, so that means everything's fixed now. No, or there's a black head teacher, so everything's fixed now.
Oh, that's hard.
You know?
That's what they want to tell us.
Yeah, it's way more complex than that.
It-
And this is why my starting point
And they
for the
know.
training. They of course.
They know it is.
No, of course, 100.
They know it.
100%.
Listen, let me give you this classic example. You know, parking ticket.
Yeah.
Right, you know, you got the parking ticket warden. I remember, and I've been driving for over 30 years, I remember when it's pure white people used to do that job, giving me parking tickets left, right and centre. Sometimes I used to roast them out with my mouth because I'm just vexed. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you're driving all the little banger, you can just about afford to keep it on the road. You come to give me a ticket. Really? Look at that man. Go and put. You know how you carry on.
Yeah.
Years later, you know, I moved back to London. You still see white people. All of a sudden,
Predominantly black people do.
all of a sudden, no. Let's not use a lazy term, black. Predominantly Africans.
Yes, yeah.
You're right.
So I'm thinking, what's going on here? Why have they got all of a sudden, these black brothers and sisters from Africa doing this job? Now, when I check it, my Nigerian brother really don't give a toss about my African Caribbean heritage here and my experience of racism, because he's just come from where he comes from. And let me tell you something. It wasn't until I went to Africa and I was doing a piece of work, you know, and I was in Nigeria, do I understand why my brothers are so proud. Why my African, because they don't have the mindset that we have. Those that was enslaved and stolen from Africa and brought to the Caribbeans and the Americans are not the same Africans that are here in the diaspora.
Yeah.
We have changed as a result of that experience.
I'm always careful to make the distinction.
Trust me, we have
I'm
to.
always careful. That's why I say I work with the African diaspora. I'm very careful to make a distinction because
So when you use the words like BAME, you know, black and minority, ethnic. Minority? You're insulting me. See it there? But they use these terms for their reports. They use these terms to gather their data. They use these terms because, for me, you cannot tell me that this sophisticated establishment do not know what is being shown to them. They are more than aware.
Absolutely.
In my view, they are more than aware. It's whether we are aware and whether we are aware of what needs to be done. So when we think about maternity inequalities, what's our response to that? I'll tell you what the response to that would be: funding doulas, funding African Caribbean doulas. I know a man whose mother used to assist the women in their village in Jamaica, helping them through their pregnancy. She wasn't qualified. But when you check it, her mother did it. And her mothers did it. Now remember, she probably was stolen from some part in Africa and was the doula for the community. So if we just... because remember you were telling about how talented and gifted we are as a people. So if we're thinking about those inequalities, then black women should be assigned doulas. Now that's a middle class white thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
But imagine it if we had people that were going to stand in the gap to talk to the woman about what she wants during her pregnancy, and someone to speak up for her, someone that's going to be able to have the flexibility to be with her 24/7. Who's going to pick up the costs for that? The establishments should, because I think we've paid enough taxes. I mean, remember, we just finished paying for reparations for all of those that had to give up their enslaved people. We've just finished paying tax for that. Me. So for me, if we think about those responses, it's about how do we support our needs in that moment. The answers are there. Is whether they're willing to listen and respond.
This is it.
Right, so we've got a few minutes left, but I just want to go through I've got a few things I want to touch on the opportunities for action.
Right.
But we're going to have to be very quick with how we... I don't know how we're going to do that. Yep. But I kind of wanted to, like, on in the report on page 31, it speaks on the lived experience of the community in Lewisham. And I just wanted to read some out. So one of them said, as I entered into the GP surgery, the GP said to me, so many people from your country come with HIV. Another community member said the NHS staff have to be anti-racist, not just less racist. And another service user said, a service said, take all black people to be the same. And again, like you said, we're a homogenous group of people. We're not all the same at all, but we do get treated exactly the same, and not looking at our own demographics and where we come from. Some of us, we spoke about poverty, and in Lewisham, the deprivation can be very different. You can come from Deptford, and deprivation is bad, but then go across to Blackheath, it's totally different. So they need to be exploring that, and why is the health outcomes different? Or we know why they're different, because that, again, it's all by design. And I wanted to touch on the term of anti-racist, because we hear that a lot. And I know within Lewisham we have the anti-racism pledge that schools have taken heed on, and they've signed it. A majority of the schools have signed it. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be anti-racist? Is it just signing something, ticking a box? Or how do you put that into practice? And I feel like me asking that question is a whole other episode again. So we can touch on that, but then I want to get into the opportunities for action, because each theme has opportunities for action. And some of them have more than others, but these are what the NHS, the ICS, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the name right in a minute. The health and wellbeing boards are going to take heed on to make sure that they are implementing this, and again, co-designing it with us to give us the best outcomes. So you touched on some of them previously around the colour coding and what that looks like for us. Some of them are going to be pilots, because when the Blaché report was put together, there was not enough participants to actually give enough evidence. So there's going to be some of them that are going to be implemented and going to be started and going to be part of the system, and some of them that they're going to pilot to make sure that they are right for us. So have you seen the opportunities for action? Yeah? What do you think of them? You've got like a minute each.
I
Shall
think,
remind you?
yeah, go on.
So
That would
the
be a
first
good
one
idea.
is pilot the removal of the colour language from the ethnic coding and evaluate the impact on participation and experience of data collection.
Now, the first thing with that is I don't think that makes sense. Because if we don't have those colour coding, then how do we map our progress?
I agree.
You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
That don't make no sense. It's about making sure that the colour coding is as diverse as we are as a race,
Yeah.
as a culture of people.
I agree. It's virtue signaling.
Yeah.
I think it's virtue signaling. Yeah.
I know for me, I always tick. It depends what I'm filling out. Sometimes I
Same.
just do other.
Sometimes
You can guess what I am.
sometimes I tick all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I can't
I'm
be
every religion
bothered.
too.
Yeah, I just tick every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second one is pilot the integration of discrimination and racism into approaches to adverse childhood experience and recognize this both in assessment of children's needs and in the design of interventions to mitigate these adverse impacts. Wow.
It's a mouthful.
That was, yeah. It's a mouthful that you got to reread it. What do you think of that one?
it's essentially considering
Okay.
our culture and our experience in interventions.
Yeah,
Is that
and
a way of
looking at
shortening?
our children now, and I guess trying to create something, pilot something to get their experiences so that when they are older, they shouldn't be going through the same things that we are going through. Because
Let
they've
me-
already tried to.
Let me tell you why I think that's a no starter.
Okay.
Okay. When I went to university, one of the things that I was really interested in was the underachievement of African Caribbean children. Obviously, I told you the story about my inequalities that I experienced when I saw how this young man was treated. So, you know, I went to university and that's all I was interested in. Why are young black men and girls experiencing these inequalities? Out of the 33 researches that I did, what was established was the attitude of the teacher had a fundamental impact on the child's attitude towards their education and who was teaching them. And for me, even if you begin to gather data, information from young people about their experience around racism within school, one, they don't have the language.
Yeah.
Two, who's doing the report?
Yeah.
Some white teacher that's got some kind of I don't see colour.
All I can say is, we'll be very careful what to say. But yeah.
I just
This
leave
is a
that
whole
there.
nother pod- This is
I
a
was
whole
going to
nother.
say,
Do you know what I mean?
part two, because I feel like there's so much more.
Because, you know, check
We
it.
definitely got to get you back in.
Yeah?
There's two more options.
Go on, let's hear them.
Opportunities for action. So review staff equality and diversity training to ensure that this is a core part of delivery of training, co-delivery by diverse individuals with lived experience. So they want more training to be done, understanding us as a people,
Training for who?
delivered by us.
For white people.
For staff, yeah.
For white people.
It doesn't specify whether it's white or
What is it going to be for black people or for white people?
Well, according to
But they
what-
operate under the. But the thing is, here's the. This is why I think it's virtue signaling, and this is why I keep going back to the same point of my opening line was my job is now impossible because it's the entire the parameters of the system need to be completely destroyed and taken down. So whether it's a white person or a black person, they still operate under the same system.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, it doesn't really matter because they the way they're trained is exactly the same. They're going to go to university and learn the exact same thing.
conforming and
They
everything,
have a
yeah.
curriculum which is prescribed. So for me, again, that's another version of virtue
Yeah,
signaling.
but Callum, it goes back to your point. You, when you entered your training, made it quite clear, and I did the same thing. I am not going to have the time to train you what is taking you a lifetime to
To
form.
learn.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
3 hours.
Exactly.
So, okay, this sounds really good. Hopefully they'll find the appropriate organisations who will be willing to design and to deliver training that raises white people's awareness about their racist ideologies and, you know, the subliminal racist attitude that they may uphold, you know. Okay, that sounds really good in theory. I suppose we can measure that, deliver X amount of training each year, make sure we involved as many, different black organisations that's got the skills and experience and the expertise to deliver on that. Yeah. That box is ticked. We come to the next one then.
Yeah. And the last one is work with education partners for all ages and local communities to explore ethnic diversity and how it can be further integrated into education to reflect the diverse cultures and various perspectives of history and experience.
That are nonsense. Sorry. That is nonsense. No, sister,
explain.
You read this really well. Thank you so much for your articulation. That was brilliant. Let me just share this with you. Teach our children their true history. That's all you need to do. Empower our young people to love and respect themselves. That's all you need to do. Because once you empower our children to know who they are, what they come here to do, and that they have a purpose, not to integrate into the establishment, but to be. Listen, let me tell you something. I saw one young lady. This was a young white lady, little young girl. And I thought, boy, doesn't she look like my friend's daughter? And when I started to check it, I thought, she's got the Kardashian look. Our young people are too busy trying to identify and fit into an identity that is not theirs, that don't respect them, that constantly procreates their identity. My sisters are getting Botox, they're getting fat lips, they're getting this. You already got this naturally. If you ain't been blessed with it, don't worry about that. Everything blessed. Somebody's still gonna love you anywhere. So for me, it's, what does that actually mean? Okay, no disrespect to those that have written the report. Their intention is honourable. But when we think about what does that look like, working with educational partners for all ages, that assumes that all schools have to be in agreement. And subscribe to that. You just told me recently that not everyone is signed up to the anti-discriminatory practice.
Anti-racism pledge.
And then you've got explore how ethnic diversity can further integrate into education.
To reform the education system is again, like going back to what I said, it's dismantling the entire country.
Tell them that now go work. They're not going to do that. No. They are just not going to do that. So
hold on, let's before we close.
About to say you got 5 seconds.
Before we close, because I don't want to close on a cynical note. What are the solutions as far as what public health or what these institutions are able to do and what they can do? Because I think majority of them are virtue signaling, but we also have to be able to say this is what you need to do.
Well, I think the community champions are a fantastic piece of work that's happening. Yeah, I think that's really good because you're empowering people in the community that have really great intention. I've been working with a couple of those groups that have been involved in that, and they are doing some fantastic work. I'm also delivering mental health awareness training to those same-sex groups, and so that people understand the difference between stress, anxiety, depression that can lead to chronic mental health issues if unaddressed. So I recognize there's a massive piece of work that is around prevention and early intervention, so we get access to psychological counseling long before we start to become a major issue. So for me, there's a lot of good work that's happening. There's some good work that's happening with dare I mention it, Surge, around how people can come and engage on a monthly basis and talk about those experiences, so with the view that, you're not just coming here to vomit your trauma to us, but we're coming here to hear those traumas and to look at where are their points of actions and things that we can actually do. So I think the report is a really good it's a fantastic opportunity for us to look at what the situation, although I know you highlight that it's was written some time ago, but I think it affirms what we already know. And I think what I like about it commits certain key organisation to action.
Yeah.
And you know how they say, everything them love writing. So we have to use the words that they've written to hold them accountable. And it's about how do we continue, as this podcast is doing, to talk to our ordinary community people that don't work in these areas, but to get them to know that this is something that's accessible and they can respond to it. They don't necessarily have to understand all the themes and the outputs. They are living it. So for me, it's about you continuing to do that good work in raising people's awareness, but also letting people know your voice count, your experience matter. We're going to take record of that and we're going to move it forwards. You're going to use that, and then we're going to come back and let you know how we got on. And these are the people that you can hold accountable. And these are the people that you should complain to. And that racism, discrimination, ignorance, stigma, and not to be ignored. And you can talk about it. While at the same time increasing your language around understanding what these documents mean.
Perfect way to close.
I'm just going to add one thing about the community, making sure that they understand, like you said, hold them to account. So when it comes to committee meetings, we're allowed to attend, whether that's virtual or face-to-face.
Good.
There's one committee meeting, which is the Health and Wellbeing Board, which the Bliss Share report is integrated into it. It's discussed, and they have updates on what's happening, looking at the opportunities for action and which ones are being pushed forward. Obviously, they're all going to go forward, but we can't do it all at once.
They have to prioritise.
Yes.
Okay.
So Lewisham residents need to make sure that they tune into this. So the next Health and Wellbeing Board is on the 21st of February at 3:00. You can go onto Lewisham website and get all the stuff. You can even backdate. And go
Can you do it online?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
excellent.
So when we do put this out, we'll have descriptions of how you can log on and everything else. But then you've mentioned a few books and stuff, so we'll also include those so people can read them and engage. And there's one book, I'm going to sign off on this note. There's one book that is prevalent to us for Lewisham residents, and it's called The Longest Journey, A History of Lewisham by Joan Anim Addo. And it was published in 1995. But
excellent book.
It's relevant today. It's still relevant.
I had the opportunity of interviewing her.
Wow.
Awesome woman.
Jealous.
Absolutely awesome. Awesome.
Right, so we're gonna. So Tracy, thank you. I mean, there's got to be a part 2. This can't be the end.
No, most definitely.
Definitely not.
We'll be able to go
Deeper.
deep. Can we talk? Can we just say what we have to say then?
Yeah. After the
say
segment's
the
done,
report. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we had to hold back there, didn't we?
Yeah.
But and then you would have got.
So
I mean, for me, I just think we need to be talking about post-humanism. We need to be talking about those. No. But hang on, check it. But check it. If we think about, why is our children behaving the way that they are? There's a bigger agenda. We need to look at the Q10 and what they are dealing with. Yeah, remember, they're not a constituted group. They came out as a result of the pandemic. I didn't say that on the interview, but they came out as a result of the pandemic. If you think about what happened in Hawaii, now, February, the government of Hawaii made it that in case of a disaster, they can take ownership of all the land. Right? A disaster happened, half the buildings are burnt down in the community, but just check it. Oprah Winfrey, amongst all those others elite, have been buying off the land for the past 5 years. Now you're going to tell me all of a sudden you get a fire and only one side of the island is burnt to a crisp, just so happened to be the side where they have the land grab and they're fighting the community for that, yet still The 1% with all the rich land is untouched. Now, the recordings and the videos that were made by the community trying to get out, who were redirected back into the fire, was all up online. I was watching it, listening to it, covered it on the radio. Then all of a sudden, within 4 weeks, they were taken down.
Wow.
Now, if you think about if you go and look at the report, it's connected to Q10.
Yeah.
You know that just met. Check it. This is not a joke, team.
No, serious.
So when you think about the report that's just recently come out, that the government is offering guidelines to parents around gender, identity and what have you, and listen to the report on the television, because I'm live on the television today, and what they were talking about, teachers teachers don't now need to
refer to them as their...
Because remember, they were talking to our children without telling their parents.
Yeah.
Our children seem to think, they're questionable genders, free choices. No, it's not. You've been socialised and conditioned to behave this way. And you think it's just out of nothing.
No,
but if you check what's going on with regards to the we've got all these postmodernistic views and what do you call it? Technology.
ChatGPT.
Huh? No.
AI.
AI.
Yeah.
And the integrated service that they want to have with AI into humans. And look at the two different school of thought and how our children have been educated within the educational system to adopt either one or both or either one of them. We think it's just all happening, it's natural. No, it's not, big people. There's reports out there. I do plenty of reading. Believe
Private
you
schools
me.
are learning about this.
Guys, I'm so
What
sorry.
schools?
Private schools are learning about
They
this.
definitely are, but
So what's
Oh my God.
Private schools are learning about this.
you too.
AI is a big conversation in private schools.
I love that we get into the. Oh my God, Tracy.
Sorry.
I love our conversations, but before Callum turns the lights off, so what? Just to
Are we
round it up.
done? Are we done?
Yeah, but we're still filming. We're still
I've done
rolling.
about 10 minutes ago. I'm gonna have to just reel off and just close this up.
Right, so pick it up, I'm just gonna close.
Well, thank
So,
you,
the first
thank
thing-
you, thank you.
So the first thing was on racism and discrimination, and like we said at the beginning, it underpins the whole of the Bashir report, and it can't just be a 1 hour conversation. So we're going to have you back, Tracy,
100%.
to go a bit deeper into all the intricate.
I'd
bits
love
of
to.
this.
It was an honour.
Yeah.
Real
Thank you.
honour.
Thank you
And
so
I
much.
think we didn't talk about anything that we wanted. Well, we did.
We
Not
did.
just
We
in a
did.
different
We
way.
done well. We done well.
Done well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We did. Thank you
Respect.
so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for asking.
Callum,
Like-
Uncle Sophie with the editing, you know.
Like, share, subscribe. I know it sounds cliche, but it helps with the algorithms. I don't know what camera I'm looking at.
Look at all of them.
Look at all of them.
Yeah,
What cross-eyed or something. yeah. Just it helps with the algorithms. So if you could do that, and peace.
See you on the next
Till
one.
time.
Social media.
Oh, at same place, worlds apart. And if you're trying to keep up to date, which you should be, on the Bashir report, it's bashir.lucian.
Shall I advertise myself?
Yeah, go for it quickly.
Okay. Don't forget to hook me up on Shine Your Light, Reaching Your Potential. And you can listen to me on a Saturday morning on a community talk show. Only those that know will know.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent. See you later.
Oh, don't forget my training that's coming
Oh,
up.
and the training. We'll put all of that in the links.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Are we done?
Done. I'm hitting stop record. Stop the recording. Stopping the recording. And let me just clap. There you go. Actually, that was a bit backwards because
That was good.
I think my God, that was so my lip was for the whole time.
God, that was awesome,
That was really good. That was good.